So I'd say, look at those things. And then about just sitting on the books, there's a lot of pro-lifers that I've talked to, some lawyers who say, well, personhood is okay, but we should attach something on it that says it's like we call it the Missouri Compromise. And it comes from Webster, the decision in Webster where the court actually said that a personhood-like language was okay. The only reason it was okay was because attached to that personhood-like language was sort of a disclaimer that said that this doesn't prohibit any legal medical procedure. And that's code language for abortion. So some pro-lifers are telling us personhood's okay, but make sure it doesn't challenge abortion. It's like, well, what's the point of doing that? And real personhood challenges abortion. We challenge that status quo because it's evil. And it would be a waste of time to do a type of Missouri language. Maybe you educate a little bit, but why educate a little bit when you can educate and have teeth at the same time?
And Roe was founded on the principle, well, not on the understanding that, we don't know that the fetus is a person. We can't say that, so we're going to decide this as a matter of due process. Well, we're setting a fundamental principle, so that undermines Roe. So it's not going to sit on the books. Roe doesn't apply if personhood is established, basically. So in Colorado, when it passes,
could I even just address,
immediately effective.
Could I even just address the issue of person, like why personhood? Because I get that a lot. People are like, well, why personhood? And just people need to understand that that's the legal term of art that was utilized in the Constitution, that no person shall be deprived of the right to life, and that, without due process of law, and that every person is entitled to equal protection. And that's why it's personhood.
Yeah. And
maybe you guys can... maybe we should speak to, and ask the question, you've alluded to it a couple times, but how will this affect contraception? How will this affect women who have miscarriages? And will a preborn child need a passport to travel overseas? That's a very important question. So.
Well, you don't need a birth certificate to be president, so... No. My 6-month child, when we went to Spain to introduce him to my family, he needed his birth certificate. But anyways, that's a whole different question. Can you repeat your question?
All right.
Okay, contraception.
Contraception, miscarriages, and then I'll forget the last one because we'll get on a rabbit trail again. So.
Contraception and miscarriage. Okay, well, I think they're sort of two different questions. Miscarriages is a complete scare tactic, and the way that I've been fighting that in Colorado is that Colorado had, even when it was a territory, it was called the Jefferson Territory back in the Wild West days. It was a couple of years before the Civil War. Colorado was trying to become a state, and they became the Jefferson Territory first, and they passed a legal code, just statutes, just like it actually became the code of Colorado, the laws of Colorado, and they had a complete abortion ban. I kind of thought that was the case. It was really hard to find because obviously the pro-aborts aren't making that information available. No one cites to it. So I went and I dug into the state archives, and I was looking at microfilm, with those old sort of projector things, and I was reading it. I'm like, wow, they actually protected all human life, and even from chemical abortions. So even back then in 1861, they said, any person who kills a human being with an instrument or a poison, so they were already thinking of chemicals that kill babies. And so abortion was actually completely illegal in Colorado until 1967, when Governor Love, ironically, a Republican, passed the abortion law. But there wasn't a single case, not one case, of either a miscarriage ever being prosecuted, of course, but also not a single case of any of the other scare tactics of a doctor being prosecuted, even charged, not even charged, for a baby who died while they were trying to save the life of the mother. for being prosecuted at all with regards to abortion. Not a single doctor. And so I just, I put the onus on the other side, and I say, well, if this is a legitimate if this is a legitimate concern, show me where this happened in the last 100 years when Americans were crazy enough, Coloradans were crazy enough to protect all human life, and they can't. And so I think that evidence is the fact that they're just trying to scare people.
And when it comes to contraception, the other side is the one bringing this up. So we're trying to protect human beings as persons from the beginning of their biological development. And they say, well, this is going to outlaw contraception. Well, why do they say that? If these are really contraceptives, preventing conception, why would they say that we're trying to prevent this? Why would this have any effect? If the human being doesn't exist, then what are you up against? Well, they know. They look at their inserts in their packages. They know how these hormonal contraceptives operate. So that's something that has to be examined. And once personhood passes, they have to make the case that, wait, this is going to outlaw this. Okay, well, why? Is it killing people? I mean, why would they want to, why they're bringing it up as a scare tactic. If this does kill people, then you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be ingesting poison if you're endangering your preborn child's life. So.
Yeah. There are advertisings from the 1950s when they were trying to sort of normalize chemical abortifacients and contraception from Planned Parenthood, saying that, telling women, assuring them that, no, these drugs will not, kill your child. And now when we try to pass a personhood amendment, they say, well, this would outlaw contraception. And so the way that we respond to it is, well, shouldn't women have the right to know that the things that you're giving them might kill their children? And if you're so concerned about it, our amendment only addresses human beings. It doesn't address hormones that don't affect a human being. And so if you're admitting to us that this would have an effect, then it must be because you see that it's a human being. And then women have the right to know that. Why are you lying to women? Again, we turn it on them. And they are lying to women.
And I like what you all said in the 2008 campaign. Well, either they were lying to you before or they're lying to you now. Either way, Planned Parenthood is lying to you. So right now, to the normal public, they're saying, well, these don't kill, this doesn't kill anybody. They lie to women. Contraceptives won't affect your preborn child. Well, now they're saying that it will. So either way, they're lying. And I thought that was very effective in 2008. We're saying that.
And I think that ultimately the way that this would all be worked out, implemented, is that you would have to have, I think that you would have to have legislative hearings on the issue. And I think that would be a fantastic outcome of this, because then people would be on the edge of their seats. Oh my goodness, are they going to take away our birth control? Well, let's watch these hearings and let's hear the testimony. Are these really birth control? Are these really contraceptives? And women deserve to know the truth. Men deserve to know the truth. So let's have these legislative hearings and let's hear it. And I think that necessarily more research will come out of it as a result as well, which I think only good can come out of that.
Yeah. And that's an effective strategy to use when explaining this, and that's that there are legitimate roles for the legislature, and it is things like investigative hearings on the effects of drugs and specific laws governing specific poisons, things like that. But the Personhood Amendment sets a framework which should be inviolable, and that's the fundamental right to life of every person. Now, how that's applied in terms of specific circumstances, that's why we elect our representatives, to make laws that comport with our basic standards. And so it doesn't mean that they then have to implement this. It doesn't mean that they're going to be the ones making this law. We're not, by passing a Personhood Amendment, we're not saying, the Republican Party is going to be the one protecting life. No, the Constitution that we pass is going to say, you may not violate this basic principle. But it's not saying you may not pass laws to try to implement this. That is their role. That's why we elect these legislators. It's to make sure that the laws that we pass comport with the principles that we believe in, which usually are in a constitution. That's where we put these fundamental principles.